Good evening, everybody, or afternoon. Welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk Around the Horn. My name is Scott Morganroth, along with my co-host, Louis Adeoway. So we're proud to bring on former Tampa Chamberlain head coach, as well as Hillsborough Community College, a man that wears a lot of Tampa hats, and USF head coach, K.R. Lombardia. And welcome to the broadcast, K.R. Glad to have you aboard.
Thank you, Scott. It's good to be here.
Well, glad to have you back. Anyway, so obviously, you know, this is a show, baseball, and you've been around it for a long time, so we'll just go to some different, interesting things, and we can talk about them. What are your comments about the cheating scandal that's rocked the Houston Astros, Boston Red Sox? Pretty nasty stuff.
Yeah, it's, stealing signs has been around forever, but not with technology, and that almost, it's cheating. It's just out and out cheating, and there's no room for it in the game. I mean, if you're going to do it where you're peeking around or, you're peeking back, but if you get caught by the other team, and they're going to grill you, and this one was a little bit different. They've stolen signs for years in the big leagues. If you look, the Red Sox in their left field, where they still have that mechanical scoreboard. I remember reading years ago that they had a scorekeeper out there that had binoculars, and he would stick his hand out to signal breaking pitch or fastball to the hitters, and I pretty much knew that. And there was a lot of the old stadiums that had those mechanical scoreboards. They'd have somebody out there. In fact, there was something in the Tampa Times the other day about Tony La Russa doing the same thing in Busch Memorial Stadium, where they had a little light in center field, and they had a guy with binoculars looking, and they flashed the light when it was a breaking pitch. Now, whether that's true or not, I just read it one time. I know Tony. I don't think he'd admit it to me, but, I wouldn't put it by anybody doing anything anymore. It's a big money game, and the thing is, Scott, if you're in the old days where players stayed on the same team forever, you can almost get away with it. But today, where players change teams like you and I change clothes, guys can go to another team and say, hey, this is what they're doing, and this is what the guy did from the A's. So I think it's pretty hard to do that nowadays. And they got away with it for a couple of years before they got exposed. So, and I'm sure the Red Sox did the same thing. He's the brain behind that. So, yeah, I mean, it's not good. It hurt the game. It's almost as bad as the 1919 Black Sox scandal, and it's not. There's no place for it in baseball.
Do you think that they should put an asterisk next to that World Series championship? I don't see baseball ever taking it away, but an asterisk maybe.
No, they won't take it away. Manfred, we were talking the other day, a bunch of us, and saying, the players should probably be suspended if they were a part of it, and if they did, the Astros wouldn't have a team. They'd have to bring up their AAA team to play, and I don't know if they can do that. I mean, it's I wouldn't want to be in Manfred's position, because whatever he does, people are going to criticize. I know that David Ortiz said that Manfred did whatever he could do, but of course David Ortiz is an ex-Red Sox, so what's he going to say? I know the Yankee players are upset. I know that the fans are livid at spring training. They're just grossing out the Astros players, and I think they've been hit 7 times in 7 or 8 games already. Mm-hmm. So I think that'll stop in the regular season, because unless they get a big lead, you don't want to put people on base. I mean, if the opposing team has a big lead on the Astros, yeah, they may drill somebody. But first inning, 0-0, late in the game, game's tight. They're not going to hit the players on purpose. I don't think so.
Well, you're right. During spring training, they don't care. During the regular season, they do care when there's a lot more on the line.
Yeah,
I don't think it'll ever be done again. I think now they've basically. I don't think those guys will ever get another job in baseball. The guys that were fired.
Yeah, right. Luno and AJ Hinch. Yeah, I think you're right.
Get a job again.
I agree.
So it's sad.
I mean, honestly, the way Manfred handled the scandal was piss poor. Honestly, he can't go back, obviously, and change it. Although I think it presents a very poor moral dilemma when you kind of just say, come out at the writer awards and say, we're not going to punish the players because they're provided immunity for telling the truth. That would be like you committing, or anybody committing, a heinous crime, going to the police and saying, hey, I committed this terrible crime, but I'm telling you about it, so don't punish me. That's kind of like what it reads like to me.
Right.
At the end of the day, I mean, it was a player-driven scheme. We knew this from the beginning. So the idea that Alex Bregman, who, despite what he did, is still one of the more exciting players in baseball, Altuve, Springer, Beltran, and Cora, the fact that they're still in baseball in some capacity at this point is astounding to me. I think Manfred, he went into this very scared, and he was scared that he was going to be scrutinized for any of the decisions that he made. But I think that's the biggest takeaway. A $5 million fine to Jim Crane is like somebody going to my house and throwing away my milk. I can go to the store and buy more milk. I mean, Jim Crane's a billionaire. I don't think $5 million means anything to him. I just, and I have a conspiracy that I pitched on the Sports Exchange, the show that Scott primarily does, a couple of weeks ago, where I thought that Crane may have maybe even paid Manfred off. But again, I'm not gonna, start something going on here. There's just something there that's really murky and fishy that I don't really agree with. I just think this was handled horribly by baseball, and you know what it is. Baseball's history is built on imperfection, as any sport is, so you really can't go back and change it. You're not going to take it away the way that the NCAA did Paterno's wins. It just doesn't work that way.
Right. All right, let's go on to a new rule change that was implemented this year called the 3-batter minimum. You told me yesterday when we talked you weren't too thrilled about it.
I don't like it, and I'll tell you why. And you want to go the lefty-lefty, righty-righty matchup, and that almost takes it away from you, and it takes away some of the strategy of the game. As an amateur coach back in the day, we weren't real big on lefty-lefty, righty-righty because, you can't go to your bullpen and pull somebody out that's really, you're not going to always have great people in your bullpen, especially at the amateur level. Now, college baseball's gotten a little better where pitching staffs are a lot deeper. But back in the day, in the 80s, when I coached in college, we didn't have that. So we didn't go to that. But I can understand in the big leagues, and they do it in college now more because they have deeper staffs. You want to bring one guy in to face a left-hander. The Yankees, when they had Gossage and Sparkle, they did it many times where they would go lefty-lefty and then bring in Gossage righty-righty or vice versa. And I think that the guys that are making those rules, I don't know what they're thinking about. I really want to speed the game up. And that's one way to do it, but I don't think that's one of the ways they need to do. I think that's wrong. I think it's crazy.
Well,
that's just me.
Well, what I think about the whole thing is I think Manfred's trying. I don't know whether it's going to work. As I remember back in the days when you and I would see relievers go 2 or 3 innings, and all of a sudden the specialty specialist came into play. So is he trying to bring back some of the longer appearances through relievers? I mean, the Milwaukee Brewers, for instance, try to push Josh Hader at least 2 innings if they can, give him a little time off and so forth. So I used to like the 2 or 3 inning reliever. We'll never see that again. But, the 3-batter minimum, does that come anywhere close to that is anybody's guess. What do you think?
Well, analytics have taken up so much of the game. We have pitching charts. Now, we didn't have the software back then that they have now where you can go in after a game and plug it into your software, and it's going to spit out what the batter's tendencies are. You had to look at it and decipher it yourself. You'd have to look and have it was manual. You did it with paper. You didn't do it with the software. And so that has taken up such a big part of the game. First guy to do that was Tony La Russa. And then it's every big league club does it. If you look at Moneyball, that's analytical. You spend this much money for a guy where you spend this much little and get players, that do this. And they look at a lot of statistics. A lot of guys who are running that aren't even baseball people. They're statistic people. And I think that's taken up such a big part of the game that it almost changes it. I'm not a big believer in that. I think that they talk about launch angle and launch speed and all that garbage. I think that's just it's too scientific, and the game isn't that complicated.
That's true.
I think that they're trying to get into that now, and I think that, and I understand the lefty-lefty, right? When you have good people, I'm not going to throw a bad left-handed pitcher against a good left-handed hitter if his pitcher's bad just because he throws on the left side. Not in amateur ball. Pro ball, it's a little different.
Okay. All right. They nowadays they have mound visits. I believe they have 4, but they had 5 and 6 for a period of time. What are your thoughts about controlling the mound visits to about 4 per game?
I think that's another thing. I think all that goes down to speeding up the game, and what's going to do is going to force you to make changes without going to the mound. You know, and you can go around that if you don't want to talk to the guy. You can send your catcher out, or you can he can step off back to the mound, and the shortstop come in and say something to him. I mean, there's not a whole lot of conversation going. I never had a whole lot of conversation with my pitchers. If he was, if mechanically he wasn't, I could yell something from the dugout to him, like, you're overstriding, get on top of your curveball. They understood what I was saying. But to go out there just to slow them down, that I don't think that's going to hurt them. I think there's ways around it to slow the game down. And if you want to make a change, you can make a change from the dugout if you really want to. If that's not going to count as a visit, just run them out there. Say you're in from the dugout, and pitcher calls timeout and leaves the game, and another guy comes in. You may see that, and that'll save their mound trip. So, but that speeds up the game. It doesn't, and that to me is the reason they're doing the 4 trips. I don't think it's necessary though.
Yeah, I agree.
They're trying to change the game too much.
Yeah, I don't like too much change. Arguably the most pure game on the planet.
Absolutely.
I think you just tinker with something that's good. I can see where if there were a lot of deficiencies, but baseball doesn't have a lot of them. I don't think.
And then if you want to go back to the 3 batter minimum for a second, think about this. Will Harris only faced 2 batters in that World Series game in Game 7 when Howie Kendrick hits the home run off of him. And he was laboring. If you put him out there for a 3rd batter, and I know the rule extends to say that you can come in with 2 outs, get 1 hitter to end the inning, and you're good. But at the end of the day, it's going to happen because this rule's being instituted. There's going to be one pitcher who's primarily a specialist. And say Jerry Blevins, who's in spring training right now with the team, cracks a roster, and he's a lefty specialist for the most of his career. He gets hurt after facing 3 batters. Then you're going to raise even more questions. And personally, again, you talked about pace of play. I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I don't even think it's really going to make it change that much. It's going to knock off, 3 minutes? Were you trying to just, make these games an hour and 59 minutes the way they were at the turn of the century? I don't think you're ever going to get back to that. That's just because baseball 100 years ago compared to baseball now is a lot different. And you know what? You have advertising and, all these 8 companies trying to get their product out there via commercials.
Sure.
Capitalism, in a sense, has kind of hurt the integrity of the sport, but to limit the mound visits and to, and as a coach, KR, I believe you would agree that, you don't want somebody to tell you how to coach. You're in control of your own team, and I think as a coach, and look, this is somebody who's never coached before, it's all about hitting the right buttons and making sure that they click most of the time, and that's how you're going to be successful. To tell Mike Matheny in Kansas City how he needs to use a young pitching staff is wrong, and to the same way you would tell a veteran manager how to use his pitching staff. It's just weird that they're policing the game in that way. But again, I mean, that's a conversation you can have for hours and hours on end.
Okay,
Sure.
Let's talk about moving the mound back. Are you opposed to, or would you rather they keep it the same?
That's crazy, Scott. They're going to do that in that independent league, I think. Can't remember the name of it. I want to say Pioneer League.
I think the Atlantic is where they usually end up making it.
Atlantic League, yes.
Right.
Here's the thing. We talked about years ago when Wilt Chamberlain was dominating basketball and the big guys were dominating the game. When you don't see a center with his back to the basket anymore, and they were going to raise the basket to 12 feet. And they did some experimental games and found out it doesn't really affect it because you're still going to have a guy that's 7'3", and he's it's 2 feet bigger, but he's still taller than the other guys. I think one of the reasons is everybody's throwing 95. I was at a spring training game the other day, and the Yankees, not the Yankees, the Nationals had a little right-handed guy, couldn't be more than 6 feet an inch, probably 200 pounds. I mean, everything he's throwing is 95. Everything he's throwing fastball is 95. And guys are throwing a lot harder now, but there's still adjustments. And I think that's what they're concerned with, that people are throwing harder. And that's why. And they're throwing harder. But I think that leads to the fact that a lot of guys are getting arm injuries because I think they throw too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And they strain their bodies. And you'll see, you you never heard of Tommy John surgery till Tommy John. You never heard of torn rotator cuffs till the recovery till Steve Busby. And I think that that's what it is. I think people are still going to throw hard. They're still going to hurt their arm. I think one of the reasons is they don't pace themselves, and they throw at too young of an age. They throw too many. They throw too much when they're young. You're seeing 12-year-old kids, 13-year-old kids, Tommy John surgery. They're throwing too much. This travel ball stuff, and these are the kids that are in big leagues now. The young kids, they're getting hurt. Severino, Severino gets hurt again, and now he's out for the year with Tommy John surgery. Early in the spring, what happened? Did he do something in the off season? Did he play a winter ball? Did he go too many innings? I mean, your arm is not built to do what it does, what they're doing, and they're strengthening. I know the weight training is a lot better and all that, but throwing so much is what's causing these injuries. And people they want to throw 100 miles an hour. When I was at Alonzo's, the athletic director, we had Jose Fernandez, the poor young man that got killed in that boating accident. And Jose used to talk to me every day. And I remember him talking to me and said, I touched 100 on the gun yesterday. I said, you're too concerned about that. That's why and he hurt his arm his first year up. Do you remember? He was out. And he's a hardhead. He just wanted to throw. I touched 100. I touched 100. I said, are you getting people out? He said, you can get people out throwing 80 if you throw the ball in the right place. And I think you're too worried about velocity and not worried about location, movement, and changing speeds. I'm from the Johnny Sain school. Work fast, change speeds, throw strikes. And going back to the game, speeding up the game, none of my pitchers walked around the mound great pitch. They took the ball and I said, we're going to pitch fast. We're going to pitch fast. We're not going to let him get in the box and get set. We're going to take the ball, get on the mound, get the sign, and pitch. And that's the way we're going to pitch. And I had kids that had never done that before, and then after they did it, they said, hey, I really like to pitch fast. You're damn right you do, because now you got him off balance. He doesn't have time to think between pitches. You're coming right at him, and we're calling our pitches, and you're getting on the mound, and you're getting the rubber pitching. And I think that speeds up the game. And it also helps your pitchers because they work fast and they get the hitters off stride. But that speeds up the game too. But I think the arm injuries are stemmed from throwing too much and throwing too many breaking pitches at a young age. You shouldn't throw a curveball till you're 14. And I had a thing we had something at Centennial Park the other day here in Ybor City. It was for the baseball museum, and they had myself and a couple other coaches, retired coaches up there. Well, John Crumley was there from Steinbrenner. And we were talking about, kids playing year-round, and I said throwing breaking pitches at 14. Throwing breaking pitches, at 12. I did a paper at Mississippi State when I was going to graduate school in 1975 and proved, without a shadow of a doubt, a kid shouldn't throw a curveball like he's 14, and he shouldn't throw more than 1 or 2 innings a week in Little League, and they were letting him throw 6 innings. Just, 8 years ago, Little League's gone to a pitch count now, 80 pitches or something, or whatever it is. It took them all that time to figure it out after I did a paper and showed it to Little League Baseball in Williamsport through Felipe Rodriguez here in town. I said, look, you need to take this and show this to them. And he said, they won't ever go for that. I said, they won't. I said, they're not concerned about kids' safety and kids' health, and they weren't. It didn't seem like they were until recently. And I think that these kids coming up now are products of that. They're the ones getting hurt. You never saw Warren Spahn get hurt. You never saw Y.E. Ford. Poor Koufax had arthritis on it. He had to get a shot. But you never saw Don Drysdale have arm problems. People like that. Because they didn't pitch all year round. And they didn't throw curveballs when they were little, probably. And they threw fastballs to strengthen their arm. But they didn't overthrow. So I just think it's a combination of a lot of things.
All right, Lewis has a question.
And moving the mound back is not going to help.
Lewis has a question for you. Go ahead.
I think that moving the mound back is more baseball's subconscious way of saying we want more offense, which you really don't need anymore after last year with another year of record home run totals. I mean, Mark Buehrle's a guy that comes to mind when I think of a pitcher who had a very successful career. He fit all the criteria you just stated. He worked fast. I believe he was one of the quickest pitchers, less than 20 seconds between pitches. He didn't throw hard, and he relied on cutting and sinking the ball, like Johnny Sain, Spahn saying, "Pray for rain," if you want to get historical with it. 1948 Braves. But I think what I was going to ask you is, as a high school coach, and I know you did it for a very long time, how did you work with pitchers in terms of strength and conditioning? Because when I played high school baseball, our coach's MO was you're going to throw 5 times a week, and then you had a doubleheader on Saturdays. How would you work with your starters, your relievers, just in high school as far as like arm conditioning goes, just to make sure that they stay healthy during the season?
In our off season, we had a weight program. We did more light weights with our pitchers and high reps, and our hitters. We always stretched. I had a rule, and I got this from Ron Polk at Mississippi State. We did a stretch program that kids had never. I never seen it. I was the first one to bring it into this town, and nobody had ever seen it. Before you walked into the bullpen to throw, you loosened up with, and they make machines for them now. They come up, and I wish I'd invented it. I'd have made a lot of money. I got a broomstick, and I cut it, and you put it behind your back, and you would stretch your arm, your pitching arm, and push your arm up and hold it. We would do some stretching exercise with that stick. Then we took an old inner tube, bicycle inner tube, put it against the fence in our bullpen, and we stretched 360 degrees our arm, and we did it. And before kid picked up the ball, that's what he did. I never had any arm trouble. I never had arm trouble as a pitching coach in college, ever, or high school. Never, because we stretched completely before we walked out, and we threw. And 20 seconds between pitches, our pitchers never took more than 10, 12 seconds between a pitch. Because we got the ball and we threw. We got the ball and we pitched. We got the ball and we pitched. And they'd step out on us, and that's fine. You can do that. You're going to have to get in there eventually, and you can't do it too much, or umpire won't let you. But we did a lot of stretching with our arms, and we did a lot of running. We didn't run sprints. We ran distance, because sprints are for speed. Distance, I want distance for longevity and to get yourself in shape. And the guy that really told me about that was my cousin, who was a physician, and he was a sports physician in Rockford, Illinois. And he told me, don't run your pitchers sprints, run them distance. You just have them where they can run and run and run. You let them run after practice, or if you want to do it during practice, because most pitchers don't hit, but let them run a couple of miles a day, and that really helped because you get your legs in shape. And Tom Seaver proved that many years ago. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we stretched our arms. I mean, they did not. Kids couldn't understand it. Why? I said, you're going to do it before you pick up a ball. I'm just telling you that. That's where we're going to do it. I've never done it before. I said, well, that doesn't mean it's been wrong. You've been right. So, knock on wood, I never had. And if a kid ever had a little bit of a twinge in his arm, we didn't let him pitch. He didn't pitch the day before the game. He didn't pitch the day after the game. The second day after, he lightly tossed and he long tossed. Then he'd have a bullpen session. Then a day off. Then he'd pitch. We would give him 5 days. And sometimes we would pitch with 3 days rest, depending on the pitch, how many pitches he threw. So we monitored how much our kids threw, and that got us to the point where we never had any arm trouble. And I was pitching coach at South Florida at Hillsborough Community College, and I coached my own pitchers at Chamberlain, and I coached my pitchers in summer ball, and I never had a problem.
Okay. All right, let's move on to robot umpires.
I like that. I have a good friend, Alan Granda, who's we grew up together and played Little League together, and he was saying, and you look at games, umpires are horrible on the plate. I was watching a college game this afternoon, and I'm just, my God, it's like an amoeba, the strike zone. I was watching a game the other day. I watch a lot of college baseball because I have a Fire Stick and I get the ESPN, and I'm a college baseball nut, so I watch as much college baseball as I can. And they're just bad. The umpires are they're not getting any better. And